allowing yourself to fully see how much terror is within you and how much you want to get away from your life.
Apparently I do show a lot of terror when I'm in that place, but I don't remember doing it.
Well, that's because there's a spirit over-cloaking you who's doing it through you, and that can only be happening because you have enough terror in you to express it in that place. So, but you're not wanting to own your terror. Even now in this discussion, actually, you do not want to own the terror. You are not being ethical in your management of your terror. Because if you were ethical, you would stay present while you're terrified. When you're not ethical, you're going away from yourself while you're terrified.
I don't know I'm going, though. I have no memory of going.
No, there's an event just before. Remember we said earlier, Mary said earlier, there's an event just before you left that you need to trace your life back to it, because that is the trigger for you going. Does that make sense? Remember we drew that both yesterday and today, where we go along, there's an event happens, and then there's the spiral.
Okay.
You understand? What you need to do is go back to when that event, the last things you remember, and you need to ask yourself more questions about that, because that is the trigger for you leaving. And you've been unwilling to do this. Right? You just want a solution to the problem without dealing with your terror.
I don't think I do, but I must.
I know. I know. Many people who have lots of terror want some alternative solution rather than feeling their terror. And if many of us are honest in the audience, many of you who have come to terror, resist, yes. How many of you come to terror and avoid it? Yes. See, it's a very common thing to do. You come to terror and then you think you want it, but really you want to run away from it. And in that moment, you'll go out of your body, you'll do different things, you'll distract yourself, you'll eat, you'll take, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is to get away. You'll do all sorts of things, including what you're terrified of doing because the Spirit's trying to manipulate you into it. So, that's the trouble with terror, is that terror is not an honourable place of integrity. Terror is, I'm going to do whatever anybody dictates that I'm terrified of. And so terror goes to the highest bidder of violence. Do you see what I mean by that?
Yeah.
The person who will perpetrate the most violence towards you is the person who will own you. If you if you have this terror in you and you leave it in you. What you need to do is release the terror so that it's no longer there. Then you won't go to the highest violent bidder.
So, can you say that again? The person who will perpetrate the most.
So the person who will perpetrate the most violence is usually towards us is the one we're most frightened of. So if we're in a habit of avoiding our fear and terror, then we will do the most things for that person because we're the most afraid of them. So by placating them, we get to avoid more fear. So in the end, we end up pleasing people who are very angry and violent.
Yep.
But this is also why we're talking about all these subjects today, because we can make a choice in that situation. Even if we've got the terror inside of us, when we reach a situation, if we've got some self-awareness and awareness of what's going on around us, we can go, I can make a choice for righteousness. I can make a choice in harmony with the truth I know. And then the fear will start coming out of me, obviously, because I've taken an action that's not in harmony with placating the fear.
So the other part of it is to continue building as much as possible with what we've learned.
These qualities, yeah. Particularly in the case of terror, the biggest quality I feel that needs to be developed is ethics and faith. Right? Because if you have some ethics, you will not go to the highest bidder, no matter how potentially violent they are. You won't do it. You won't go out of your body. You'll stay present no matter how frightened you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
You'll stay with you. You've learnt this process at a very young age, Nancy, and it's a habit. It's become a habit. You learnt it at a young age for obvious reasons, and we won't go into those, but you know them, I think, well enough.
Yeah.
And you go out of your body. You went out of your body then as a result to get away from the situation, the discomfort, the shame, guilt and other emotions that we're all involved in it. You go out of your body and it's become a habit for you now. So whenever there's a little bit of stress now that occurs in your life, bang, you're out. And this is a habit that's formed over many years that began in your childhood. Yeah. So the key is to develop some more ethics and develop some more faith that you can actually feel terror. Remember, terror is just an emotion. Yep.
Who feels like getting it tattooed on your wrist? Sometimes
terror is just an emotion. And all emotions are capable, we are capable of experiencing all emotions. So we are capable of experiencing terror, right? So allow yourself to develop the faith that that is true, and allow yourself to develop the ethics that whenever I run away from myself, I am out of harmony with ethics on a lot of levels. Firstly, I'm expecting other people to put up with a different person than what I really am, which is not a very ethical thing to do. But also, I'm trying to avoid my own emotions, which is not an ethical thing to do. You know, any person who avoids their own emotions or attempts to is not going to have much success growing. So we need to, you know, hold on to these ethics and pray about those particular things. And in fact, if you read the last part of this scripture, because Mary, just read it again, perhaps, the one a bit about the prayer.
Oh, yep. Let's do it from this one, hey?
Yep.
And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. So
can you see, when we notice ourselves not having one of these qualities, that's the time to pray about developing a sincere desire to develop that quality. Pray to God to bring us situations and circumstances that challenge those qualities so that we can develop them, right? So, and then over the next few days, you'll notice there's another situation that came, I wasn't ethical there. Another situation came, I didn't have much faith there. And then you can start developing the qualities with these situations that your soul attracts.
Yes, I'd never thought of this situation as being to do with ethics.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Every situation that involves spirits and people on earth interfering with our life in some way is always associated with ethics, interestingly enough, as well as these other qualities. That's why this information was channeled to Paul. Yeah.